Praise God. Blessings to you, our committed, faithful, and loyal viewers. We want to say thanks for taking time out from your busy schedule to be with us on Choices. We appreciate this a whole lot. Now, we will continue from where we left off last week. From this set, we are concerned about what is happening in our nation, also to our youths, especially our school children. There are some drugs known to some and unknown to some that are being peddled in our nation, schools, parties, social gathering, even in family setting. Drugs known as molly or sugar, candy, ecstasy, or designers pills. Now, these drugs are dangerous and would destroy our people. We want to appeal to all and sundry. Let us open our eyes, be more concerned, and fight to eradicate this monster before it's too late. Youths, they are our future leader of tomorrow. Let us look out for them, guide, encourage, and protect them. That child could be our very own. We want the best for our own. We must desire the best for others. This is Choices. We want to say to you, God bless you, and God continue to bless beautiful Guyana. Thanks again, and welcome.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Singh, and good evening, brethren. We want to pray that God will continue to bless Guyana. You know, one of the important or the fascinating feature about Guyana is that we have a very youthful population. More than half, I think it might be 60% of our population is considered youthful or young people. And as we look to the future, especially as we look to the numerous natural resources that we have, there is the consideration that our young people are necessary, not only to propel us into the future, but to ensure that our development path is assured. And so last week's program, we looked at some of the things that might be distracting, some of the things that might be inhibiting our youthful population, with a view of offering some solutions and some ideas as to how we might tackle some of those problems, especially as, like Reverend Singh mentioned, designer drugs that might be used by our young people. But you know, in the scripture, in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, Timothy identifies the importance of youth or young people. But however, there's a caveat there. There is an expectation of how our young people should conduct themselves. And hear what the scripture says. It says, let no man despise thy youth, referring to the fact that young people are important, they're necessary, they're valuable, and we shouldn't despise them. But he goes on further to say, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. So Timothy sets out here the parameter in which young people should operate and conduct themselves. And so as we deal with this problem about the use of drugs, we want to curb that and we want to eradicate it. So as you listen today, be a part of the conversation as we work towards having our young people become assets rather than liability to our society. So God bless you. Call a friend and let's have a wonderful conversation going. Gentlemen.
It's not just our concern is not just for them being assets to society. the rate at which things are going, we could lose a large swath of our young people because their physical presence might be with us. I can best describe that you might see in like a house, lights on, but nobody at home. So they have a lot of young people walking around zombie looking like. You see their physical structure. They dress well, and but nobody is in at home in their mind, in their brain, thinking about their future. They're just preoccupied with the next high. We cannot afford that.
You know, Bishop, I'm glad that you made that observation because the drug um, package in different forms that we are looking at, they say it plays a major role on the mind. It is packaged, we learned last week, in the form of a capsule, a pill, etc. It controls moods. It creates aggression. It stimulates sexual activity. It affects sleep. It affects feelings. It influences the level of pain you feel. So clearly, it has a severe impact upon the mind and the nervous system. And anything that is used in an abusive manner and on a long-term basis, you can already imagine the long-term destructive impact it is going to have. So for those who ask, why are we concerned? It's simply because it destroys our young people, it destroys the user, it destroys our assets, it destroys the builders of the foundation that is being created at this particular time. And hence, this awareness and this deliberate effort to help our young people not to become addictive to this kind of drug.
Joshua, Limar, and Martin, what are the pull factors? I mean, we are describing as adults, we're describing the downside. But what are the pull factors? What is it that young people are up against?
Well, Bishop, one of the first ones is peer pressure. Molly is available in schools. For as low as $500, you can access $500 you can have a pill of Molly at schools, at many schools in Guyana, many secondary schools as such. And so because of, you're in school, your friends might be using it and describing their experiences and so on. That peer pressure is important. Its accessibility is a pull factor too. It's accessible, it's not too expensive, and it's available in the school system. Beyond that, what is also a pull factor is the benefits or the enhancements, I should say, that are described. One of the enhancements that is talked about is the sexual enhancement. Young people in our schools would use this drug for sexual purposes, to have enhanced sexual experiences and so on. And it's a party drug, yes, but we can't shy away from reality that there is that component too as a pull factor. One of the other things too is that, there may be stress levels, depression, and so on, mood issues amongst our young people. And it is young people or people who push this drug would advise, you could feel better by using it. So it comes across as a help for those who are depressed and having a hard time at home or even having a hard time studying. It's marketed, and falsely so, as a way to relieve your mind and to be stress-free and so on. Those are some of the pull factors.
Our leadership is giving a holistic approach to this topic, and I just want to endorse the points that Assistant Pastor Joshua would have made. Many of our young people are depressed, and it goes to show that we have a lot of work to do as the church, as opposed to just simply judging them and looking at them using Molly or ecstasy. It shows that we need to work in these areas. And as Pastor Joshua rightfully pointed out, Molly, it offers a temporary ease. So while you may be having stress at home, you go out with your friends, you forget your problems at home. You may be abused by a loved one, you may be abused by your father, and they go out and they see this as an escape. But really and truly, it's just temporary. And the backlash and the side effects, they outweigh the perceived benefits. Another pull factor and the peer pressure issue is something that we underestimate, or I don't think a lot of emphasis is placed on it, because I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was telling me that she wanted to go to this King concert. So I was like, why are you going there? You know? And then after the concert and after she went, she was like, Limar, I don't think I'm going to be going back. I just, partying is not for me. And some people are fortunate to have the chance to not go back. But you know, many of them go and they have a bad experience. Suppose they die in that experience. Some people are fortunate to live and tell the story and tell that this is not the way to go. So many of our young people, they're just looking for that experience and to fulfill that hype. My friend is going to this party, my friend is trying this Molly pill, I want to try it to see what it is, what's it's about. But we're here to tell you that there are no benefits to this. Pastor Sana pointed out, you may have a temporary ease, but you go back into that depression same way. So it doesn't add any value to your life, or the benefits are not long term.
Well, and as we speak about the pull factors, I think it's important to highlight something like catharsis. There's a term called named catharsis, where persons look for that breakdown. They look for that moment of peace, that moment of serenity. And as a young person, you're not in your 50s yet, you're pretty young, you don't know the world around. So when you hear about a solution like that allows you to possibly experience an escape, why not try it? That could be one of the pull factors to it. The other one, as a marketer, I would highlight is the great management of information, because there is an issue when it comes to transparency, because many of these persons are told about how exciting, how party, how the vibe is and everything like that. But when they never tell you the drawbacks, maybe a couple of days you can't think straight, maybe your ability to perform academically is impacted. But as a good marketer, you don't highlight the downturns, you don't highlight the bad effects, you highlight the great effects. So I think that if we are more transparent about these things, it will reduce the amount of acceptance. It will reduce the amount of persons engaged in the usage of these products, because when you look at the data, if you take a pragmatic approach to it, it's like drinking poison. It's like using poison and using it consistently. So definitely that's another consideration. And finally, there are certain persons, especially at the younger age, that have these sort of you call them addictive personality traits. So they have a higher likelihood of not only sampling it once, but becoming addicted to it. And there are a number of reasons why persons would have these kind of traits, but I think much of that occurs in the youth, or in your earlier stages of development. So that's why it's important to, if you cannot completely stop somebody from being introduced to a product, you try to limit the amount of time or the amount of opportunities that they have to be exposed to these kind of things that could drag them down. So it's a big battle, but I think that as we understand the pull factors, we should also promote strategies that are not only short-term oriented, or they're not only systematic, but they're more individualized, like, as I said, transparency.
To get young people to listen to, I heard the three of you. How do you what do you have to morph yourselves into to get your message or to get our message to the youths?
Well, just a quick one. I think historically, when it comes to the fight against drugs and stuff, the strategy has been more about scare tactics. You know, that thing gonna kill you, that thing gonna make you go mad. These are the kind of things that are being told. But I think because the younger people are more educated, they understand that that's a possibility. However, those negatives come with benefits for them, even if it's short term. So I think one of the greatest things that we could do is to have honest, direct, open conversations about it and explain that yes, you will feel nice, you will be excited. However, in 2 or 3 years, your ability to write, your ability to think, your ability to pursue your purpose, your dream, your career, or whatever will be negatively impacted. And show them empirical evidence, show them real facts and data so that they could understand that it doesn't make sense. That's just one my first suggestion.
No, Martin, I just want to follow on what you said there and what Bishop asked. The word stress is being used very often as the reason why the young people go for these designer drugs. As a young person, is there something that we are not doing as adults, or the system is not doing that will cause young people not to? Is there something that we can do that can prevent children or young people going in that direction? Let me give an example. Well, we're recording on Thursday. This morning, like I do ever so often, I stand at the side of the road and encourage children to get to school on time, because school starts at 9. And also to encourage them, like for example, this morning, I knelt down and I tied a child boots lace because the child was walking on the pave, the lace was flying all over the place. I tied it. But I touched the haversack. And I want to believe that apart from books and probably a lunch kit, there might have been other things in the bag. So I went through the bag and I found things that should not have been in the school bag. So I'm wondering, when we talk about stress, is the home contributing it? If so, what can we do? What would we want to recommend that will relieve or ease the stress and cause the young people not to use these designer drugs?
Dr. Lee, I like the observation that you've made, and I want to add some data. You know, the Guyana National Household Drug Survey that was facilitated by the Ministry of Public Security in 2016, it showed that there was an issue of drugs in Guyana, and particularly in Region 3 and 7. They feared that because Guyana is a transshipment point, you know, the drug use would increase in Guyana. But to your direct question, it was observed in the survey in 2016 that there was a low use of ecstasy. But we see that it has changed. And because of popular culture, so for instance, now Skeng is singing a song about Molly get pop, and other artists are singing a song about Molly and different drugs. And so our youths, they're now being exposed to these things far more than in previous years. So we might think that, oh, beating them or hiding them away would be the best solution. But I have a 4-year-old nephew that is on YouTube, and I heard him say something that was that as a young adult I didn't know. So I realized that, wow, we've become so technologically advanced that even our 4-year-olds know about these things. So when we think that, oh, we're gonna wait until they're 18, 19, and then we're gonna have these conversations with them, that is not the method. So one recommendation I would suggest is for us to start acting as incubators. You know, our bishop normally promotes this idea. When you're an incubator, you don't just nourish and feed and protect, but you show them these things at a young age. You want to teach your children as opposed to them learning it outside of the home. So you can teach them these things as a very young age. Your 10-year-old, you might say, oh, 10 is too young. But if you don't do it, the internet is going to do it, because on YouTube, these pop-up ads come up and our young people, they know about these things. So you tell them, hey, love, well, this is a drug. If anyone offers you this to use or to eat or anything like that, you come and tell me and I will deal with them. So we must be frank. I love Martin's observation. We must be transparent as adults. We can't think that our children are ignorant anymore. We must have these real and true and pure conversation with them in the hope of protecting and incubating them.
Indeed, stress, or as Dr. Lee mentioned, trials, troubles, hard times, difficult times, they're part of life and living. What is important is managing and coping mechanisms. And one of the things I want to recommend in terms of the adults, I think, added to what has already been said, I think adults would do well to learn more about what is happening among young people, and not just apply the approaches taken during their time, not just assume that those approaches would work for the young people. We have young people are different. And even those younger than myself, I consider them very different in terms of what they've been exposed to, what they have access to, how they think, how they perceive. And so it really would require our adults to make the effort to become relevant, or to have access to relevant information in treating with young people. It would require them reaching out and having conversations with persons who deal with young people, with teachers and counselors and so on. And that should help us.
I believe, and I want to agree with all three speakers, I believe that a safety net must be maintained. If it is not at the home level, it has to be at the community level, especially a collaborative work between the church and the school system. I have found that once that safety net is removed, there are those who will get to our children. You know, quite recently, I had to reach out to Limar and some other young people because I discovered that an 11-year-old was asking me, since they were pressured by the colleagues at school over some terms that they don't seem to know. For example, 420. And for me, 420 is just a number. What is 420? But when they talk to each other, they speak to each other in the code of 420, or they speak to each other in the code of 69. What is 69? What is 420? And if you really understand the meaning of 420, you'll be shocked, because 420 really speaks to the subject of the use of drugs, all right? And not just these designer drugs, even harder drugs. 69 speaks to the subject of sex. 180-degree sex, and like, so I believe that the understanding and the collaborative effort and the maintaining the safety net is so critical, so that we'll be able to help, because many of our children are being pressured.
And I would also suggest that we look at it in a different way, a different strategic perspective. It's not about getting children not to use drugs. It's about getting them to pursue more purpose-driven activities, more purpose-driven lives. So if you look at it like that, like I remember when I was young, still at QC, and I was in the Scouts, and the Scouts had a big hike. I think it was 10 miles or something like that from the East Coast down a rice farm, and you were sleeping on paddy bag and you're walking under the moonlight. And no point during that entire trip did I think about designer drugs. You know, it's all about giving these young people experiences that are going to shape who they are, shape their character, and also give them something to explore. And just as Joshua mentioned, you know, it's about giving them coping mechanisms. It's not about eradicating stress or getting them off of drugs. It's about helping them to live lives that are exciting, lives that are purpose-driven, and focusing on developing them into who they're meant to be. So I think that is the perspective I would take on it.
We are doing recording on Thursday. And I looked at the headlines in one of our dailies. They identify a particular school in the city, and they have had some encounters with gangs. Who, you have in the normal society, you have structures, and in these structures, the people who are responsible to deal with crime, they're the police, border issues down with soldiers. Do we have gangs in our school system? Do we have gangs in our communities? And are they the ones who could be responsible for the supply and all these other things that we are talking about, marketing and so? Do we have gangs?
Yes, we do. It's a reality. Even in my year, that was in 2016 time, there was the Bloods and Crips trying to recruit our young people within our schools. And certainly it's still an issue. We have a lot of gangs, and they do facilitate because they benefit from selling the school children these drugs. So it's certainly something that we must look at, Bishop.
The absence of light is beneficial to the work of darkness. We need to shed light. We need to ensure we have light, we are aware of what's happening, and we can be agents of light too.
But we're talking to parents. I like this. We're talking to parents, we're talking to guardians, we're talking to the stakeholders in society generally. And we're saying, please don't take our children at face value. They don't only have internal challenges that are stress related and so on and so forth, real issues. And I heard Pastor Limar refer to abuse at home and those kinds of things. But they are also under a lot of pressure from the society. And now you put in that mix criminal enterprise, and our young people become major victims. By the grace of God, let us open our eyes, and we invite you all across this nation. Let's fight for our children. This is Choices. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
We thank you for joining us on Choices today. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly, LNP Durban Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana, for any of our special services. I'm Celacia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.